Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. A good topic, let's do it. People of Reddit, have you ever experienced anything paranormal or strange? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. My former house used to be a doctor's office in the early 1900s. Two of my family members died in the house, and there is probably a whole creepy history I don't know about. When renovations happened, things got crazy. I heard someone running down the stairs more than once. No one was there. I heard conversations, like people having a garden party in the middle of the night. There were knocking noises below my feet from the basement ceiling. I felt the knocks against my feet, though I'm quick to blame pipes of the house for settling on that one. We lived there before any ghost hunting shows, otherwise I'm sure we would have called. My first house was set up so that there was a straight line of vision from the living room, through the kitchen, through the small laundry room, to the back door that led into the garage. All of those doors stayed open, and the only doorknob that was visible was the one on the door leading to the garage. I got up one night and went to double check that the alarm was on. When I hit the doorway between the living room and the kitchen, I noticed the doorknob on the door to the garage was reflecting light. There is a lot of light. As I stood there trying to process where the light was coming from, the doorknob floated toward me in the middle of the kitchen. It was not a doorknob, but something quite similar to a very large silver bubble. The bubble hovered in the middle of the kitchen for probably 10 seconds. It felt like a lifetime, and then drifted up into the kitchen ceiling. That house had quite a few odd things happen to it. That was the scariest to me. When I was 17, I was in rehab. There was this ghost that appeared in the hallway at 10 p.m. He looked like an old man, but really sweet, like a grandfather. He never messed anything up or hurt anyone. He was just kind of there. And if you talked to him, he would stay and listen. He wouldn't respond, but it was actually very comforting. And he always left if you asked him to. All you had to do was politely ask for some space, and he was more than willing to let you have it. I genuinely miss him. I hope whatever's happening, he's okay. Long story short, my uncle died. He lived with my grandparents. My grandma kept his bedroom light on, the door closed to kind of make her feel like he was still home. I went back there one day, opened the door, peeled inside, and looked around for a few seconds. He then said, "I love you, Uncle Blank." And I could have sworn I heard his voice say, "I love you too, R34CTZ," which obviously is completely insane. I knew he couldn't or wouldn't hear me. He's dead. Dead people don't hear. I said it just to say it, but I still swear that I heard a response, which is effing weird because at a certain age I started not wanting to stay the night there anymore. I'd have the weirdest dreams. I'd sleep in my grandpa's room at the end of the hallway. It was right next to my uncle's room. Basically, you walk through the hall. My grandpa's room was straight at the back of the hall, and my uncle's room was off the side at the back. But I'd sleep in my grandpa's room on the floor with some sleeping bags. I had several dreams where I'd wake up, lay on the floor, and see the door open with light streaming in from the hallway, but I couldn't move. I felt an intense need to move, but I couldn't. On other nights, I'd have dreams of trying to walk into the living room from the hallway, but I couldn't. I'd run, but my legs were so slow and heavy, I couldn't leave the hallway. On a few occasions, I would get to the end of the hall, but then feel like I was being pulled back in. I never could see, hear, or feel what was pulling me. I would just be pulled back in. Creepy AF. Penny ghost. At least that's what we called it. Growing up, me and my older sibling would randomly get hit by pennies out of nowhere, always when we were in closed-off rooms and by ourselves. Sometimes when we were in the same room, but most often when we were completely alone, with one of us not being there. It wasn't until a friend who was alone in a bedroom was hit by a flying penny from the corner of the rooms furthest from the door that we realized it wasn't just each of us messing with each other. Hindsight being 2020, considering it only happened in closed-off rooms we were completely alone in. Still not sure what pelted pennies at kids growing up, but hey, penny ghost. Was there anyone else in the house ever? Could it have been another family member, or I don't know. Seems odd. When I was in my mid-teens, in my mid-40s now, a bunch of friends and I, maybe 10 of us, made a shitty replica of a Ouija board with some not all that serious intentions of contacting spirits. With nowhere to really go, we snuck around our quiet little village at night attempting to use said board. First, we went to an old burial mound. I sat down around the board, but it started raining. We took cover until it eased off, then headed to our school playground. Again, about to start, another group of kids interrupted us. They stayed to talk for a while, then left. We then walked into some nearby woods and sat down there. I was starting to get fairly freaked out by this point and wanted to back out, but I stayed anyway. My friends laid out the board. We sat around and we kept getting disrupted by things. Acorns, branches, God knows what, falling on the board. We just gave in, then, and called it a night. I felt relieved. Maybe not the scary story, but I've always felt that there was something stopping us from using that board. I was living in an 1800s era house that was sectioned into little quaint apartments. With the exception of this experience, nothing weird, creepy, or unexplainable ever happened to me there. I generally slept with my bedroom door halfway open. One night I was lying in bed with my cat, and the door kind of creaked toward the shut position on its own and paused for a second. In the split second that I was thinking, okay, that's slightly weird, and simultaneously attempting to think nothing of it, the door began violently swinging back and forth without me fully closing or shutting, as if someone was standing near the doorway, thrashing the door back and forth, trying to freak me out. As this was happening, I obviously got pretty spooked, as did my cat, so I went to pull my blankets over my arms and face. Just then, I felt a cold spot brush across me. At that point, I was honestly done and just said, "I'm not here to hurt you, please don't hurt me," or something like that. And I kept mentally repeating that over and over and over as I pulled the covers tight over myself and tried to fall asleep. I don't feel like this was unexplainable so much as it was logically explainable by something that the majority of people think is illogical. So I just don't talk about it much. To me, it was simply a spirit passing through. When I was like 5 or 6, me and my brother woke up early on Easter morning to collect Easter eggs, candy, and stuff, but the moment I stepped foot into the living room, I heard a really loud and deep voice call out my name. So I thought it was my dad talking to me through the camera thing that we had set up. So I ran to my parents' room, and to my surprise, they were both asleep. I still don't know who or what that voice was, and my family has no recollection of the incident. It still freaks me out a little when I think about it. After my great-grandma died, my family and I went to our family cabin in the country. We only went there in the summer, and the toilet was broken due to the cold winter. Anyway, we all peed outside the house and went to bed. The bedrooms are upstairs, and the house is very old. Keep this in mind, there is one bedroom inside the other bedroom, which was where my dad and stepmom slept. The rooms are only divided by a curtain, and you have to walk through me and my sister's room to get there. So we go to sleep, and our dad has to leave in the morning because he has to buy a new toilet, and when he got downstairs, the front door was wide open. Both my dad and stepmom made sure the door was locked, and no one was up at night to pee outside because one, my sister would never walk outside alone to pee. I barely managed to go alone at night to pee inside the house because it's an old house and it's scary. And two, if my dad or stepmom did, we would wake up from them walking through our room. So why might this be paranormal, you may ask? I mentioned that this was after my great-grandmother died, and, well, when she was alive and used to go to said house, she would always have the door wide open in the summer. Also, when did she die? An old alarm clock deep inside a closet in her home suddenly rang at her time of death. A couple of years ago, I was at work at a store. It's 2 hours before we open, and I'm stocking shelves in the quiet with only half the store lights on. I'm crouched down trying to fix a mess on the bottom shelf when I see legs approaching me. She looks like an old woman in the below-the-knee-length dress and compression stockings like many of our customers, but of course we aren't open. I sit up in confusion and see nothing. I tell the other person working about this, and they tell me that everybody has seen or heard weird shit in this store. And we just don't talk about it because it freaks some people out. Later, I tell my mother about it, and she has more to tell. Before my store opened, a different store was in that location, and my mother worked there in that old store decades ago. One of her coworkers, an elderly woman, died on shift and never went home. They saw glimpses of her walking the aisles and entering the back room regularly until the store closed and the one I was working at took over the building. Soon after learning this information, I share it with another coworker. On this occasion, it's 30 minutes after the store closed, and there are only the two of us in the building. We're standing in the back room, a wide open space with nothing above us and nowhere for anything to fall from. I tell him what the mother told me, and he is a little freaked out by it. And then, effing can of creamed corn flies across the empty stockroom, passing between us and landing to roll under one of the parked pallet jacks. We both scream like girls and run to the office where we lock ourselves in and review the cameras. Nothing. The can emerges from the darkness in the recording, and in the current stream, there's no motion and nothing. A miss in the back room. The motion sensors aren't going off. There's nothing. This remains my most obvious and straightforward weird event. Incidentally, within 6 months of this occurrence, the store was slated to be closed and relocated to a brand new building on a different plot of land. This is probably unrelated to the ghost. Not sure if it really was paranormal or not, but a few days ago after my great aunt passed away, I had a dream where I was in this hotel-like environment, very beautiful with a river beneath my feet and a bunch of places to eat near. I walked past it and into some wedding reception area where a wedding was happening. My great aunt was surprised at how I was there, but told me to meet my cousins. After the dream, I told my mother about it since the way that my great aunt reacted and felt like a real prison. Unkind of a dream copy, who always treats me like I'm supposed to be there regardless of how weird the dream is. I found out that my cousin's wedding was my great aunt's favorite memory. I used to drive Uber as a second job. I'd drive during the late hours of the night from 10 p.m. to about 3 a.m. for people going to or leaving bars. I just dropped off my last ride. I was about to turn off the app and then I got another ping. It was a long fare, $20 plus profit, so I took it. The drive was from one side of town to the other, and the drop-off location was in the historic district of the city, which had the oldest houses in town. The passenger's pick location was the oldest cathedral in the city. Weird, but I didn't think much of it because it was just a couple of miles away from the bar district. I pull up to the rider's location. The rider comes out of the dark alley from behind the church. Again, weird, but I didn't think anything of it. She hops in the back seat behind the passenger seat. Once she hopped in, a chill she sent down my spine. She sat in such a way that the shadows covered her face. I greeted her, but she didn't say anything for the first 5-ish minutes of the ride. As we got onto the freeway, she broke the eerie silence and asked if I believed in ghosts. Again, a chill was sent down my spine. I told her that I thought it was a fascinating topic, but had never experienced any supernatural occurrences. She then asked if she could share some of her experiences. I said yes, because I was tired and figured her talking would keep me awake. She said she lived alone. She often cooked for herself, and one night she heard a whooshing sound while she was in the kitchen. She told me she assumed it was her cat, but then she realized her cat was sitting at her feet in the kitchen. She kept hearing it, so she said she went out to investigate the sound. When she got into her living room, she said she saw her album collection being sorted through. She said the whooshing sound was someone or something meticulously flipping through the albums she had standing up on their spines. She said it was as if someone was looking through them to see which album to play on her record player. The story was odd, but I was too tired to think much of it since it was around 3 a.m. In my head, I was thinking she was just trying to play a joke. Anyway, I shrugged it off, then she asked if she could share another experience. We had about 10-ish minutes left in the ride, so I said yes. She went on to talk about how, as a single woman living alone, she liked to treat herself to flowers. One day, she bought a dozen roses and put them in a vase on her living room table. She said she was at home and cooking when she heard a huge bang or commotion in her dining room. She rushed out to the dining room and found flowers thrown about the room. She said they were scattered everywhere, covering the floor, but she said the craziest thing was that the vase was standing upright on the floor, full of water she had filled it with. There was not a drop of water on the floor. Again, a chill was sent down my spine. At this point, we'd arrived at our destination. The house was illuminated, and big windows in the front of the house made everything visible inside. I could see everything she had described. The record player and records are in the living room, through the right window. I could see the dining room with the vase full of roses on the dining room table. The porch lights were on as if to welcome my passenger into the home. She got out of the car and didn't say anything else. She walked up the pathway leading to the front door, but then took a hard right and disappeared into the shadows on the side of the house. Again, I didn't think much of this and figured she was just going through the back door or something. As I was getting ready to leave, I went to close out the ride. This is where it got weird. There was no ride. Uber didn't register the ride. It was as if I didn't drive anyone. There was nothing in my account, no payment. There was no log of the ride. Wild. Was this rider the spirit or ghost haunting the house? There could have been a glitch in the app, but it's still weird as hell.